Good day and a very healthy day to all of you. Look, this is a very interesting day in terms of what you are going to discuss in terms of trying to look at future of our industry. And whenever we look at future of our industry, we keep thinking unidimensionally in the past of trying to see what new research is happening from a molecule point of view and therefore which therapy is being addressed through that molecule. That used to be our singular way of functioning in our industry for many, many years, or probably 3 or 4 decades now. As time has gone by, this is completely transformed into a very different thinking about the whole methodology of what our industry will look in the future. And there are two primary reasons for it. One primary reason is basically that from people are moving from the concept of illness to wellness. That people are now no longer thinking of are they sick, but they are also thinking how I need not be or can avoid sickness. While on the other hand, the other movement that has happened is that patient also has created a journey of trying to move from being just a patient to a consumer. And a consumer certainly, let's say, behaves very differently from a patient because consumer has demands. Patient most of the times did not have demand. They would go by whatever has been told to them as a recommendation by doctors and try and follow that. Or they would be in a compromised situation where they just face treatment the way they would. So these two are big driving forces in the way the whole industry has started to think differently. Let's look at it in 3, 4 different ways as to what will change in the future. Today, I would rather sit at home, call up a doctor on, let's say, a media, whatever you call it, Zoom or whatever apparatus you use. You can call a doctor on a media. You can do your own readings through tests that can be conducted by yourself in a self-directed way, including what you did in rapid antigen tests. So you could do that, take the results in, talk to the doctor of the results, close the call, open another window, put in your request based on that for medicines to be purchased and your home delivered medicines. I can do that flat in 1 hour, and in maybe in 3 hours, I have the medicines with me. So with this, what I'm doing, eliminating a lot of time and expense that I had as a journey as a patient. All this has been enabled because there is digitization of health. This is one very, very big factor which is changing the way future will look. Digitization of health is allowing us to ensure that we can incorporate a lot more stuff inside in our daily experiences in managing our own health, including you have smart watches. Everybody wears a smart watch these days. Yeah, nearly everybody, let's say. You have mobile phones. Everybody can do some kind of activity through mobile phone, which can enable them to look at mobile health in a different way. Everybody has some access to net and therefore Google's information on health. Now, all this has added up substantially to a consumer or a patient or a citizen to look at information, look at treatment, look at the way they can manage their health in a much, much better way. So digitization of health is actually changing tremendous amount of medicine treatment and the way healthcare industry is to behave. Pharma industry has had to move away from being partly supply chain industry to start thinking how can it contribute in this area and therefore still remain relevant in a digitized health situation. So digital health is taking a lot more progress than what it was. Today, US FDA approvals, 20% of them are on digital health. That's a huge improvement from where they were. Yeah, it just goes on to show what more is happening everywhere. Let's keep that one away now. The second one that is happening is a big change that is happening in the way medicines are being researched and treated. Two big things that are happening. One thing that is happening is how do I prevent a disease from happening? And therefore, I'm talking of either early intervention or I'm talking of vaccines which prevent you from a disease. The big jolt that the industry got on COVID allowed us to bring in new generation platforms to the market by which we can accelerate vaccine development substantially. And I am taking the example of mRNA vaccines or DNA-based vaccines. Imagine these platforms have opened a completely new world now, and I am able to now discuss on the table with science to say how do I deal with, let's say, dengue, chikungunya, TB, malaria, Klebsiella. I can discuss a lot more diseases saying what can I do with this platform. Suddenly, my acceleration towards trying to understand how these diseases can also be controlled through vaccines is increasing dramatically. And even if I have a 50% effective vaccine, I can get the approval and therefore come to the market and save a lot of lives. So the new platforms that are coming in preventive medicine, besides digital health, are also very, very exciting. And that is changing a lot of thinking in the industry that am I really in the right sphere? Why do I need to treat something when I can prevent it? And this is going to go farther and farther and farther. And you'll find a lot more science coming in here in terms of probiotics. You're looking at disease like diabetes and hypertension or stroke in terms of inflammation. And at the core of the story, if it is inflammation, how do you treat that inflammation? The inflammation markers are becoming very, very clear. The IL-17 drugs, the IL-23 drugs are getting studied more and more. Therefore, it is very, very exciting phase in terms of trying to now think through that part of medicine. There is another part of medicine which is very, very exciting. I partially alluded to it, but the exciting part is that we are moving leaps and bounds from just a chemistry-oriented R&D to a biotech-oriented R&D. So from small molecules to large molecules. And there is a huge advantage of doing that. The advantage that you're doing is biologics actually treat diseases. While most of the time chemistry allowed us to quell symptoms and therefore prolong the impact of the disease and control the disease in a particular way. But this is different. This is completely. If you have arthritis, I can treat you in a particular way. If you have some other diseases, immune modulating diseases, I can treat you in a particular way through MABs and therefore get you to a position where you can really be more or less disease free to an extent where you can move yourself longer. The third part of it is, of course, oncology, where you with immuno-oncology and stem cell and the chemotherapy, you can combine everything with predictive oncology to really treat most cancers in another 10 years' time. So this is again a very, very exciting change that we are seeing, which is happening. All this is also resulting into creating an atmosphere of more equitable and sustainable healthcare, which is probably, let's say, the biggest change we are seeing in the 21st century. If 20th century life expectancy increased because of vaccines and safe drinking water, 21st century is all about equitable and sustainable healthcare. And equitable and sustainable healthcare is allowing all of us as citizens, patients, human beings to take our health in our own hands and manage it the way we need to manage it in a particular way with all the surrounding help that is there from medicines, healthcare professionals, the preventive steps that we can take, and actually ensuring that I have a much better quality of life. This is very, very different from the way we used to look at our own self. Why does this become important? And why future of pharma has to be intertwined with this is the fact that you cannot be a medicine manufacturing machine any longer. That is what we were for a very long time. And we used to promote products for a disease. In future pharma, and to end this discussion, I will leave you with a thought that the future of pharma actually exists in trying to treat human beings as human beings. Allow that human being to be participant in the process of managing his or her own health, and thereby creating customized solutions, which will mean that the person who is wanting the treatment or wanting to prevent diseases has the ability to make decision himself or herself. And that is where pharma will have to move for it to have any impact in future. So hopefully in this few minutes, I have been able to tell you how dynamic this field is changing, how rapidly it is changing. I actually learned so much about healthcare, let's say in my last 30, 32 years of working. But what I learned 10 years ago is no longer useful to me. So every day I'm questioning whether my experience is useful or my acquiring new skills are more useful to do my own work. This is where the things are changing. And if pharma industry doesn't change, somebody else will occupy the space. So it's also going to be about survival of our industry. And therefore, we need to think ahead and think in the future of what we should be. Thank you.